Hi, everyone. So today we're going to start a new science lesson on horseshoe crabs. I'm going to first start with reading you guys a book, and then I do want to talk a little bit about it, and then I'll introduce your assignment. So we're going to talk about another one of my favorite animals, horseshoe crabs. My other one was osprey. But the reason why I like teaching about horseshoe crabs is because they're right here in this area. And if you go to the beaches, especially along the Delaware Bay and Cape May, you'll see them. So, because this is their time of year that they come up in this area. So, I wanted to talk a little bit about it so that way when you see them, you'll know how to handle them and the history behind them because they're really cool animals. So I'm going to read you a book called High Tide for Horseshoe Crabs. It's actually by a local author. I bought it down when I went to the Wetlands Institute. So it's a local story of, the horseshoe crabs coming up to the beaches in Cape May. So it's starting. One spring night, the first horseshoe crab lunges onto shore. So it usually happens around mid-May to mid-June, so which is right now. So that's why I wanted to teach it to you now. They're arriving. More horseshoe crabs follow, just as generations have done since before the time of the dinosaurs. Adult horseshoe crabs crawl from the muck of their winter homes and swim towards land. So yeah, horseshoe crabs have been around as long as the dinosaurs, and that's one of some of the research that you guys will look up. Millions of horseshoe crabs head for Delaware Bay. High tides carry them far up onto the beach, where their eggs will develop best. They're flapping. On flickering wings, flocks of shorebirds fly through wind and rain through day and night. Some of these birds weigh only as much as a handful of paper clips, so they're super tiny. Still, they are powerful enough to fly thousands of miles from South America all the way up to the Arctic, where they will lay their eggs. So these birds, what they do is, it's amazing, right? How they know where to go and how long their flight is. They come to Delaware Bay and eat, and then they head up to the Arctic. One of the few stops they make along the way is on the shores of the Delaware Bay. They're traveling. Scientists journey to Delaware Bay from around the world. Some come to study the horseshoe crabs, others come to study the birds. Citizen scientists, both adults and children, come year after year to observe and help the professional scientists gather data. Families on vacation, curious about the commotion, also stop to watch. They're landing. Bony and Wheat, the migrating shorebirds, arrive in Delaware Bay. They are hungry, very, very hungry. So what they come to eat, they eat the horseshoe crab eggs. The horseshoe crabs they lay hundreds of them. Sometimes they're like real small, kind of like a golf ball. And the birds don't necessarily kill the horseshoe crabs, because what happens is they eat the ones that are on top of the sand, and in order for it to survive, it actually has to be buried in the sand. So it's not really hurting the horseshoe crabs. They're the ones that wouldn't survive anyways. So they're hungry, very, very hungry. So they're almost starving by the time they get to the Delaware Bay, and then they eat. They almost like binge eat. They just eat so much. That way they can travel up to the Arctic. It's happening. They're tagging. Scientists tag horseshoe crabs each spring. Months or even years later, when people find tagged horseshoe crabs on the beach and report them, scientists learn answers to basic questions. How far does this animal travel? How long does it live? How many horseshoe crabs are out there in the sea? And it helps us protect them too, so we know about them. They're feasting. The birds find an easy meal. Tiny, nutritious horseshoe crab eggs float in the water. They drift along the tide line. They mix in with the sand. The birds' long beaks are just right for digging. During the 2 weeks a bird spends along the shores of Delaware Bay, so they're only here for 2 weeks, so that's pretty special. So it's happening right now. We went down to the Delaware Bay yesterday and we saw the red knots actually feasting on them. And they have some of the beaches blocked off so you can't get in the way. It gobbles so many thousands of horseshoe crabs' eggs that it may double its body weight. Right? That's a lot. They're growing. Plenty of little green horseshoe crab eggs rest deep in the sand, protected from pointy bird beaks, scientist probes, and crashing waves. Each day, inside each egg, a shapeless bundle of cells begin to look more and more like a miniature horseshoe crab. So if you go to the Wetlands Institute, if you get a chance to go this summer, you'll see baby horseshoe crabs. They actually have a permit to be able to harvest them. And they look like tiny little horseshoe crabs. And then they're leaving one evening when their bodies are fat and the wind is just right. Whoosh! In the whirl of wings, the birds leave. Some stragglers keep feeding for a few more days, but most of the birds zoom up to the Arctic to lay their own eggs. They're leaving. Scientists and vacationers brush sand off their binoculars. They pack up data sheets, beach chairs, and stories, then return home to share what they've learned. They're leaving too. Most adult horseshoe crabs ride tides and currents back into the deep water. Others won't reach water quickly enough, though, and will die on the shore. About 2 weeks later, the young horseshoe crabs burst from their eggs, now nearly the size of ladybugs. They crawl from the moist sand and swim away to begin their own journey. So yeah, the horseshoe crabs, the female is larger than the male, but they lay the eggs and then they do leave them there until next year. And so they come back every year, which is pretty cool. If you get a chance, you can read these pages. Really interesting facts. It could help you actually with your slideshow if you read those pages. I won't read them to you though. And a couple of other like websites if you want to look at it. Here's the anatomy of a horseshoe crab, which is what I want you to tell me about. Super cool. Here's their mouth right here. It's like a vacuum on the bottom of the ocean. So this is pictures of me and my family. We went there recently. And if you look at Cape, this is New Jersey, right? So this is Cape May. It's the southernmost part of New Jersey. This is the Atlantic Ocean, right? And it leaks into the Delaware Bay. So the water is a nice temperature, and they tend to lay their eggs right on the beaches of the Delaware Bay, right here in New Jersey. And then those red knots come in from South America, and then they harvest right here. So it's really cool because they're right here in our area. Here's a couple of different pictures on the beach. Real nice beach that you can walk on. They were either cooling themselves, they're alive. Sometimes they look like they're dead, or they might be laying eggs in the sand. When we were there, we were kind of mad because some of the tourists, this guy was taking them out of the sand there and then throwing them back into the water. And that's exactly what you don't want to do. Just leave them be. And what I want you to tell me about is like their tail and how you should pick them up and when you should touch them. That's what I want you to find the research for. So they were there's there with my son, and there's a horseshoe crab. You can kind of see its trail. It's pretty cool. Foot tracks. Well, it's not really foot tracks, but trail. And then they were all on these rocks here, getting ready to lay their babies. Now, that's not a dead horseshoe crab that my son's holding. They actually molt. So they their shells come off just like a snake, and then they'll grow a different shell. So sometimes you'll find them on the beach, and that's just their molt. I wouldn't take them home unless you were going to bleach them because it can be kind of stinky. There's another one hiding on the beach. So these are ones that we found just the other day. So for your website, here's an informational link on horseshoe crabs. You can use the story. What you're going to do is you're going to make a slide presentation about horseshoe crabs. And I'm going to show you under each slide, it's going to tell you exactly what you do. So, all right, so let me show you your project. All right, so I'm assigning you a blank. Whoops, my bad, wrong one. Let's see. I'll try to find it again. I think I have it untitled. Well, anyways, you'll see under your slideshow, you'll see under the notes what I want for each slide. It's like 7 slides. One will be like the anatomy of it. And of course, I want lots of pictures and cool information. And I hope that you appreciate the horseshoe crab and appreciate how long they've been around and how cool they are and how important they are to these birds too, these migrating birds. So enjoy researching it, and then just turn it in when you're done. And I can't wait to read them all. And maybe you'll take a trip down to the Delaware Bay, since now is their prime time, and maybe you'll see some. All right. Have a good day. Bye.